Soldiers are not afraid of too many things, but if your vehicle is dirty, you're gonna be afraid. Now, I made a poll. Who wins, a dirty Humvee or a mad Sergeant Major? And out of 124,000 votes, 73% of you said a mad Sergeant Major. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are asking, well, why is a Sergeant Major going to beat a dirty Humvee? Well, you may have noticed military vehicles are usually always very clean and very properly placed. But then there are times where Carl or whoever forgets to wash some portion of the vehicle, and then this happens. You have what's called a walkthrough, and your Sergeant Major or whoever's in charge is going to see that dirty Humvee, call over the first sergeant, and then crap rolls downhill from there. At that point, things get very bad. You're going to be staying after work to clean everything, you're getting yelled at, someone's doing push-ups, someone's hitting a hammer on a water buffalo. And hey, you might get you a motor pool tab if you survive that. If a soldier's in the middle of a convoy and they gotta use the bathroom, here's a little sneaky pro tip. And quick disclaimer, do not get caught doing this because I'm pretty sure there's regulations saying you can't do this. This is for educational purposes only. Now, if the convoy stops and you gotta use the bathroom, all you have to say is, I'm going to check my tire for leaks. Now, the key is you walk outside and you make yourself look like a NASCAR pit stop crew and make sure you're really evaluating the truck. Then from there, you step in between the tires, wherever crevice you can step in between, and then go to the bathroom. Now, unfortunately, there are times where the wood line is too far that way, or the porta potty is 9 miles away, and then when you walk into it, it's 1,000,000,000 degrees outside, so you're gonna melt inside of it. So the easiest yet risky thing you can do is just say, hey, I'm going to check my tire for leaks and hope you don't get caught. If a soldier loses an experimental MRE while training, you're in big trouble. Now, an experimental MRE is not actually an MRE. An experimental MRE is actually a sensitive item. Soldiers walk around with sensitive items all the time while training or deployed. This could be a weapon, an ACOG scope, your night vision goggles, your radio. And so if this happens, you could spend countless hours walking around the woods or whatever training area you're in looking for your experimental MRE. One of the dumbest things I've ever had to do in the Army was look for an experimental MRE, aka a radio, that a lieutenant lost, of course, with a minesweeper, hoping to find this radio somewhere in the ground. Now, if you can't find your experimental MRE, consider yourself dumb sauce. And for that lieutenant, he did end up finding that radio, and I'm gonna be honest, I never even had my minesweeper on the whole time. These are the easiest ways soldiers get caught by the Criminal Investigation Division, also known as CID. And this is for educational purposes only. Do not do any of this. You will get caught. Number 1, overweighing your vehicles on a scale. What am I talking about? Well, one of the benefits of being a soldier is that when you move to another base, you will actually get a payment for how heavy your vehicle may be on the move. So this means soldiers can go to a weight station, have an extra trailer, put a trailer on top of that trailer, add a bunch of crap in the back, and oh, I bought 3 telephone poles the other day. You will 100% get caught because CID knows about this trick. It's been a trick for a while now with soldiers. Number 2, selling your night vision goggles on the internet. If you don't know by now that CID is on every single marketplace ever, you're going to get caught. Not only that, a Karen is probably going to rat you out, and then you'll get caught that way. Some soldiers actually identify as a Jedi. One of the first things a soldier learns is that on Sundays, you don't mind going to church and you don't mind being religious because going to church on Sundays, especially in basic training, you get to hang out with your friends, you get to be away from the chaos of the drill sergeants. And if you've never seen dog tags, they actually have your religion posted at the bottom. So you could have Protestant, Catholic, or some people have even managed to put Jedi on their dog tags. I always found it interesting that a soldier's life can be very intrusive. Everybody knows everything about you. The government is watching what you're posting on Facebook. But in all reality, being religious is not that big of a deal in the military. In fact, it's almost welcomed and it's appreciated, and nobody really cares if you're religious or not. Soldiers have these paint rounds called Simunition, and in theory, it's a great idea, but it's also a bad idea. Now, I want to start with this. When you're using Simunition, it adds an ounce of realism, where when you shoot your round and you hit somebody, you got them, but vice versa, if you get hit, you got hit. But here are where the issues are. First and foremost, you can't just use whatever rifle you want. You gotta have a conversion for your rifle or whatever weapon you're using to have the proper bolt for using Simunitions. Number 2, you run a very high risk of injuries, specifically head injuries. In fact, I found an article titled "Head Wounds Received During Force-on-Force Training with Non-Lethal Ammunition" found in the Military Medicine Journal. And number 3, your gear virtually gets destroyed. That's why I like to put Simunition in the camp of great idea, bad idea. I'm gonna be honest, I'm glad I never had to use Simunition because of all the cleaning you have to do, the logistics behind it, but some people love it. A soldier will never say that target is 656 feet away. They will say it's 200 meters away, and there's a reason for that. Introducing STANAG, Standardization Agreement amongst NATO. Essentially, members of NATO realized that the United States does whatever they want and everybody else uses metric, so they had to come up with something that standardizes everything. Otherwise, if you're working with British soldiers and you tell him that that target is 600 feet away and he doesn't know what that means, you're gonna have a problem. That's why the United States military uses the metric system for a vast majority of things. But if you're with your own group of guys and you're measuring out some rope, you're not going to say that rope is 1.5 meters long. You're just going to say it's 5 feet long. A soldier can lose all of their benefits they worked for just for making one mistake, but there's hope. Okay, when a soldier gets out of the military, they get their discharge status. Now, depending on your discharge status, that says whether or not you can get benefits from the VA. So here's a real life example. I have a buddy, he got a DUI, not a good thing. However, you can appeal your discharge status if you have enough proof that that mistake does not reflect who you really were as a soldier. For my buddy, he was a Purple Heart recipient. He got letters of recommendation for the appeals board. He never did anything wrong but the DUI. And so they bumped his status from other than honorable to general discharge. Unfortunately, though, for a lot of veterans, that appeal decision board, it doesn't always go in their favor. In fact, the government doesn't even consider you a veteran if you got a dishonorable discharge. That's why I always say try to be cool with everyone, treat everyone with respect. You never know when they can help you in the end. The hearing test for a soldier is either the funniest thing ever or you are terrified. So pretty much you and your buddies walk into a random small closet, put some curtains in between you, and then you click the little buzzer when you hear a beep in your ear. And then you either get told you pass or you failed by the advisor who's administering the test. But the reason why I say some soldiers could be terrified because sometimes your job requires you to have good hearing, and then it can be an issue on whether or not you can sometimes keep that job. Now, I also say it's hilarious because, look, as a former combat engineer, all of us are deaf, so we have no idea if we're hearing ringing or whatever's going on, so you're just clicking the button and hoping that you're gonna pass the test. Now, personally, I actually do have a hearing aid. I always sucked at the hearing test, but for the most part, when you go to your test, it's just an easy way to get out of work. Even if a soldier did nothing wrong, going to a court-martial is not always the best answer. Now, if you built an obstacle course in the barracks and you broke the lights, you're obviously gonna get in trouble. Lucky for you, there's something out there called the Article 15. This avoids soldiers going to jail at the max punishment, and you can just handle your punishment in-house by your command team. But if I was just a soldier watching them and I didn't even do anything, why am I getting in trouble? You can theoretically tell your command team, I want to go to a court-martial and resolve this. Now, every soldier has the right to go to a court-martial, but the issue is this. If you get in trouble, you face the max punishment no matter what. And the other issue is, as we all know, in the court of law, it's very easy to manipulate things to get you in trouble. That's why a lot of the time soldiers get screwed over, don't actually prove themselves that they're wrong, and just take these silly punishments. One of the most difficult things any soldier will do is turn their gear back in when they're done with the army. Now, this is called CIF, Central Issue Facility, and when a soldier wants to get out of the army, you gotta turn all your gear back in. However, okay, first off, there are digital copies of everything you've ever been issued as a soldier, and when it comes to turn back in your gear, you better have everything or you're paying for it. So if a soldier doesn't want to pay full price for that gear, they will go to a surplus store and hopefully there is some tactically acquired gear for sale at the surplus store. Also, this single grain of sand can make it to where you need to take your gear back and clean all of it again before you turn it back in. Soldiers go the extra mile to make sure all of their gear is completely clean, no sand or dirt. I soaked my gear for 24 hours in a bathtub because they will turn you away if there is a single grain of sand. And there needs to be an award for any soldier who got a first time go through CIF because they are a pain in the butt.